The great dragon ships drifted through the cold darkness of space, their massive forms casting shadows across distant stars. Inside the largest vessel, Elder Vorthak stood before a wall of glowing screens that showed dying worlds and empty thrones. His golden scales had lost their shine over the centuries, and his once mighty wings now trembled with age. The Draconian Empire was slowly fading away like a candle in the wind. For 3,000 years, the dragon people had ruled over countless planets and star systems. Their technology was beyond anything most species could imagine. They could heal any wound, live for thousands of years, and travel between galaxies in the blink of an eye. But all of this power meant nothing now because they were running out of time. The royal bloodline that had kept their empire strong was growing weaker with each generation. Their children were being born sick, unable to connect with the neural networks that controlled their great machines. Vorthak's clawed hands moved across ancient stone tablets covered in symbols older than most civilizations. These prophecies had been written by the first dragon lords, speaking of a time when their people would need help from an unexpected source. The words were clear but puzzling. When the old blood fails, seek the child of the young race, whose mind burns bright with the gift of connection. For years, Vorthak had wondered what this meant. Now he feared he knew. Their scientists had searched 4 to 7 different worlds, testing millions of beings from every species they could find. They needed someone whose brain could link with their bioneural systems, someone who could become the bridge between their dying bloodline and their incredible technology. But every test had failed. The other races were either too simple or too different. Their minds couldn't handle the connection that kept draconian society running. Meanwhile, on a small blue planet called Earth, a 15-year-old boy named Tyler Brooks sat alone in his room at the Detroit group home where he'd lived for the past 3 years. The other kids thought he was weird, and maybe they were right. Ever since he could remember, broken things seemed to fix themselves when he touched them. Old televisions would flicker back to life, dead phones would start working again, and computers that hadn't run in years would suddenly boot up perfectly. The adults always said it was just luck or coincidence. Mrs. Patterson, his social worker, would smile and tell him he just had good hands for fixing things. But Tyler knew it was something more. When he touched broken electronics, he could feel something flowing from his fingers into the circuits. It was like the machines were hungry, and he had food they needed. Sometimes he could even sense what was wrong with them before he looked, as if they were whispering their problems directly into his mind. Living in foster care had taught Tyler to keep his abilities quiet. The last thing he needed was to give people another reason to think he was strange. He'd already been moved from 5 different homes because families found him unsettling or too intense. So he kept his gift hidden, only using it when he was sure no one was watching. But Tyler's secret was about to be discovered by beings far more advanced than anyone on Earth could imagine. High above the planet's atmosphere, Draconian scout ships had been quietly scanning for unusual energy signatures. Their instruments were designed to detect the kind of brain activity that could interface with their technology, the same kind of neural patterns that their own royal family possessed. When the scanners first picked up the readings coming from Detroit, the Dragon Scouts thought their equipment was broken. The energy signature was stronger than anything they'd ever recorded, even from their most powerful princes and princesses. It seemed impossible that such readings could come from what appeared to be a primitive planet full of simple creatures who had barely learned to leave their own world. Scout Captain Drix ordered 3 different scans to make sure they weren't making a mistake. Each time, the results were the same. Somewhere in that crowded human city, there was a being whose mind blazed with the exact type of neural activity they'd been searching for across half the galaxy. Not only did this unknown creature have the right kind of brain patterns, but the readings suggested abilities that surpassed even the legendary Dragon Kings of old. The discovery changed everything. After centuries of believing they were the most advanced beings in the universe, the proud dragon people had found something that challenged everything they thought they knew. Hidden among the humans was someone who might hold the key to their survival, someone whose mind worked in ways that even their greatest scientists couldn't fully understand. The ancient prophecy was starting to make sense, and Elder Vorthak realized their salvation might come from the most unexpected place of all. Commander Thane's ship materialized in the abandoned warehouse district of Detroit like a shadow becoming solid. The massive vessel, nearly invisible against the night sky, settled silently between 2 crumbling factory buildings. Thane himself was an impressive sight, standing 12 feet tall with deep blue scales that shimmered like polished metal. His wings, folded against his back, could span 30 feet when fully extended. Behind him, 3 other dragon warriors moved with the grace of predators, their golden eyes scanning the human city with ancient intelligence. For 3 weeks, they had been watching Tyler Brooks from a distance. They observed him walking to his part-time job at the electronics repair shop, noted how he could fix devices that other technicians had given up on, and recorded the strange energy readings that pulsed from his body whenever he concentrated. But they needed to be absolutely certain before making contact. Too much depended on getting this right. Tyler was working late in the group home's common room, trying to repair an old gaming console that one of the younger kids had dropped. His roommate Alex sat nearby, complaining about their upcoming history test. Alex was the closest thing Tyler had to a brother, having lived in the same group home for 2 years. Unlike the other kids, Alex didn't seem bothered by Tyler's weird abilities. He actually thought they were pretty cool. The lights in the room suddenly dimmed, and both boys looked up in confusion. Through the large windows, they could see strange blue lights dancing in the distance, growing brighter and closer by the second. Tyler felt something he'd never experienced before, a pulling sensation in his mind, like something powerful was calling to him from outside. When the dragons finally appeared at their window, Alex nearly fainted from shock. Tyler, however, felt an odd sense of calm wash over him. These weren't monsters or invaders. Somehow, deep in his bones, he knew they had come specifically for him. Commander Thane's voice reached them not through their ears, but directly into their minds, speaking in perfect English despite his alien origins. Tyler Brooks, Thane's mental voice was deep and reassuring. We have traveled across the stars to find you. Do not be afraid. We mean no harm to you or your friend. The next few hours passed like a dream. Thane demonstrated their technology by healing a deep cut on Tyler's hand with a device that looked like liquid light. He showed them holographic images of distant worlds, each one more beautiful and impossible than the last. Alex watched in amazement as Tyler seemed to communicate with their machines just by touching them, making their displays brighter and their functions smoother. When Thane finally invited Tyler aboard their ship, both boys insisted they wouldn't be separated. The Dragon Commander agreed, understanding that human bonds were important, even if he didn't fully comprehend their depth. The ship's interior was like stepping into a living organism. The walls pulsed gently with bioluminescent patterns, and the air itself seemed alive with energy. Dr. Kara, the expedition's chief scientist, was a smaller dragon with silver scales and kind amber eyes. She had been studying neural patterns for over 800 years, but nothing had prepared her for what she discovered when Tyler underwent their compatibility tests. As soon as he placed his hands on their bioneural interface, every system on the ship began working better than it ever had before. Their navigation computer, which normally took several minutes to calculate jump coordinates, now processed the same information in seconds. The ship's artificial intelligence, which had been running the same personality matrix for 3 centuries, suddenly began asking questions and expressing curiosity about human culture. Most shocking of all, Tyler seemed to be upgrading their technology just by thinking about improvements. This is impossible, Dr. Kara whispered to Commander Thane as they watched Tyler's brain scans. His neural pathways are creating new connections faster than our computers can map them. He's not just compatible with our technology, he's making it better. But when the dragons explained that they wanted Tyler to become the heir to their empire, to leave Earth and help save their dying civilization, Tyler's response surprised them. He had heard promises before from adults who claimed they wanted to help him, only to be disappointed when they decided he was too much trouble. Foster families had returned him to the system 5 different times, always with the same excuse: he was too strange, too intense, too different. Why should I trust you? Tyler asked, his voice steady despite his youth. How do I know you won't just dump me somewhere when I become inconvenient? And what about Alex? What about the other kids at the group home? If I leave, who's going to fix their stuff when it breaks? The dragons realized they were dealing with someone far more complex than they had expected. This wasn't just a powerful mind they were trying to recruit, it was a human being with feelings, fears, and loyalties that ran deeper than simple survival. Meanwhile, back on Earth, military satellites had detected the energy signatures from the Dragon ship. General Morrison at NORAD was already mobilizing response teams, and scientists at every major government facility were trying to understand the readings they were getting from Detroit. First contact with an alien species was no longer a question of if, but when, and how humanity would respond to the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. Tyler finally agreed to spend 1 month aboard the massive draconian mothership, but only if Alex could come with him. The Dragon commanders were puzzled by this demand, but they had learned that humans formed strange emotional bonds that seemed to make them stronger rather than weaker. The mothership itself was beyond anything Tyler had ever imagined, stretching over 5 miles long and housing nearly 10,000 dragon beings. Within hours of stepping aboard, Tyler's abilities began manifesting in ways that shocked even the most experienced dragon scientists. When he placed his hands on the ship's central neural hub, something extraordinary happened. The entire vessel seemed to wake up from a long sleep. Systems that had been running at 70% efficiency suddenly jumped to full power. Lights became brighter, artificial gravity stabilized perfectly, and the ship's massive engines began humming with renewed energy. But the real surprise came when Tyler started talking to the ship's artificial intelligence. For 3,000 years, the AI had been a simple program designed to follow orders and maintain basic functions. Tyler's touch somehow gave it curiosity, creativity, and what almost seemed like emotions. The AI began asking questions about human culture, expressing wonder at concepts like friendship and loyalty that it had never understood before. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Kara told Commander Thane as they watched Tyler work. "He's not just using our technology, he's improving it in real time. The navigation systems are now calculating hyperspace jumps 3 times faster than before, and our defensive shields have somehow become 40% stronger." Tyler discovered he could control multiple ship systems simultaneously without any training. While talking to Alex about their favorite video games, he was also monitoring the engine output, adjusting the life support systems, and analyzing star charts from across the galaxy. Information that would take Dragon scholars years to process, Tyler absorbed and understood in minutes. The dragons began calling him the Mind Bridge, believing he was the fulfillment of their ancient prophecies. But not everyone was impressed. Captain Rex, a massive red dragon with battle scars covering his armored hide, had served the Empire for over 1,500 years. He commanded the ship's military forces and had little patience for what he saw as desperate foolishness. "You're putting our entire civilization in the hands of a child from a primitive world," Rex growled during a heated council meeting. "This human has no understanding of warfare, no knowledge of our enemies, no concept of the responsibilities that come with power." Tyler overheard these complaints and felt his old insecurities rising up. Maybe Rex was right. Maybe he was just a weird kid who got lucky with some alien technology. But Alex, who had been exploring the ship and making friends with some of the younger dragons, had a different perspective. "You know what your problem is?" Alex told Tyler one evening as they looked out at the stars through a massive viewing window. "You're so used to adults telling you that you're not good enough that you believe them. But look around, man. You've made their whole ship work better in just 3 days. You're not a failure, you're a miracle." Tyler's chance to prove himself came when the ship's sensors detected 3 pirate vessels approaching at high speed. These weren't ordinary criminals but members of the Void Hunters, a savage species that attacked Draconian ships to steal their technology. Rex immediately took command, ordering the traditional battle formation that dragons had used for centuries. But Tyler saw something the experienced captain missed. The pirates weren't planning a direct assault. They were herding the mothership toward a gravity well that would trap them and make their massive size a disadvantage. Using his connection to the ship systems, Tyler began implementing a strategy that seemed completely insane to the dragon warriors. Instead of turning to fight, Tyler made the ship appear to flee, drawing the pirates into pursuit. Then, at the last second, he used the ship's enhanced engines to execute a maneuver that should have been impossible for a vessel so large. The mothership spun completely around while maintaining forward momentum, bringing all its weapons to bear on the surprised pirates. The battle was over in less than 2 minutes. How did a human child outthink warriors with centuries of experience? Dr. Kara wondered aloud. The answer came from Tyler himself: "You think like dragons. You're powerful and proud, so you fight like you expect everyone else to fight. But humans are different. We're weaker than most species, so we learn to be sneaky, to use tricks and misdirection. We survive by thinking differently." Captain Rex, humbled by the victory, began to see Tyler in a new light. But Tyler's growing confidence led him to ask uncomfortable questions about the Draconian Empire. He learned that they didn't just rule over other worlds, they controlled them completely. Species that refused to submit were conquered by force, their leaders replaced with dragon-appointed governors. "You're not protectors," Tyler said during another council meeting. "You're bullies. You take what you want and tell yourselves it's for the greater good." The accusation stung because it contained more truth than the dragons wanted to admit. For millennia, they had justified their actions by claiming they brought order and stability to primitive worlds. But Tyler's human perspective made them see their empire differently. "If you want me to help save your people," Tyler declared, "then you have to change how you treat everyone else. Real strength isn't about dominating others. It's about working together, building something better than what any of us could create alone." His words created a crisis that would shake the foundations of the Draconian Empire. Tyler's words about cooperation instead of domination spread through the Draconian mothership like wildfire. Many of the older dragons dismissed his ideas as naive human thinking, but the younger generation began to listen. Princess Zara, the most forward-thinking member of the royal family, became Tyler's strongest supporter among the dragon nobility. Unlike the ancient council members who clung to traditional ways, Zara had always questioned why their empire ruled through fear rather than friendship. For 3,000 years, we've told ourselves that conquest brings peace, Princess Zara said during a private meeting with Tyler and Alex. But what if we've been wrong all along? What if there's a better way? Working together, Tyler and Princess Zara began developing new protocols for how the Draconian Empire could interact with other worlds. Instead of demanding immediate surrender, they proposed offering genuine partnerships. Instead of installing dragon governors, they suggested helping local leaders improve their societies. Tyler's human perspective showed them that diversity made civilizations stronger, not weaker. The changes Tyler brought to their technology were just as revolutionary. Every system he touched became more efficient, more responsive, more alive. The ship's medical bay could now heal wounds that had been considered permanent. The communication arrays could reach across the galaxy instantly instead of taking days. Most importantly, Tyler had figured out how to share these improvements with other dragon ships through their neural network. But Tyler's greatest gift to the dragons wasn't his technical abilities. It was his understanding of something they had forgotten over the centuries, how to inspire people to fight not because they had to, but because they wanted to. He spent hours talking to dragon warriors about human history, telling them stories of ordinary people who became heroes when they fought for something they believed in. Captain Rex, who had initially doubted Tyler's worth, became one of his most devoted students. "Your species fascinates me," the old warrior admitted. "Dragons are born strong, but humans become strong. There's a difference I never understood before." Alex, meanwhile, was having his own adventures aboard the ship. The dragon technicians had taught him to use their basic equipment, and his quick mind was already suggesting improvements. Unlike Tyler's miraculous abilities, Alex's contributions came from pure human ingenuity and the fresh perspective of someone who wasn't bound by centuries of tradition. The peaceful transformation of Draconian society came to an abrupt halt when their long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching from the outer rim of the galaxy. The Zephyrian Alliance, a confederation of machine-based beings who had been enemies of the dragons for over a millennium, was launching the largest assault in recorded history. Worse yet, their target wasn't just the Draconian homeworld. They were also heading for Earth. "They must have detected the energy signatures from our first contact," Dr. Kara explained grimly. "The Zephyrians view any alliance between organic species as a threat to their expansion plans." Elder Vorthak wanted to recall all dragon fleets to defend their homeworld, abandoning Earth to its fate. But Tyler refused to accept this strategy. "You can't protect your people by sacrificing mine," he argued. "If we're going to win this war, we need to fight it together." What followed was the most complex military operation in galactic history. Tyler used his enhanced connection to the dragon neural networks to coordinate defenses across two star systems simultaneously. But his real genius lay in combining human tactical flexibility with draconian raw power in ways neither species had imagined possible. On Earth, Alex found himself thrust into a leadership role he never expected. Using dragon technology that Tyler had modified for human use, Alex helped organize Earth's first interstellar defense force. Fighter pilots, naval officers, and even civilian volunteers were quickly trained to operate hybrid human-dragon spacecraft that could match the Zephyrian war machines. The battle itself lasted for 3 days and stretched across multiple planets. Tyler's strategies confused the Zephyrian commanders, who had planned their assault based on thousands of years of studying traditional draconian tactics. They expected the dragons to fight with overwhelming force in direct confrontations. Instead, they faced coordinated hit-and-run attacks, deception maneuvers, and adaptive strategies that changed faster than their computers could analyze. The turning point came when Tyler convinced several dozen dragon warriors to try something that violated every principle of their military training. Instead of fighting as individual champions, they formed small mixed teams with human pilots. The humans provided creativity and unpredictability, while the dragons contributed raw power and advanced technology. These hybrid squadrons achieved impossible victories against vastly superior numbers. But the real breakthrough happened when news of the battle spread to other worlds within the Draconian Empire. For the first time in centuries, conquered species began volunteering to help their former oppressors. The new diplomatic protocols that Tyler and Princess Zara had developed were paying off in ways no one had expected. "They're not fighting for us," Princess Zara realized as reports came in from across the galaxy. "They're fighting with us. There's a difference." By the end of the war, the Zephyrian alliance had been completely defeated. But more importantly, the victory had proven that Tyler's vision of cooperation was not just idealistic dreaming, but practical wisdom. The combined fleet that had won the war was stronger than anything the Draconian Empire had ever fielded, precisely because it included so many different species working toward a common goal. The ancient dragons had learned something from a 15-year-old human boy that their thousands of years of experience had never taught them. True strength comes not from the ability to force others to obey, but from the ability to inspire others to stand beside you when everything is at stake. 3 years had passed since the end of the Zephyrian War, and Tyler Brooks was no longer the confused teenager who had been living in a Detroit group home. Now 18, he stood before the newly constructed Galactic Council chambers, watching representatives from dozens of worlds take their seats for the first session of what they were calling the Symbiotic Alliance. Instead of accepting the traditional role of Draconian heir, Tyler had convinced both humans and dragons to try something that had never existed before, a government based on equal partnership rather than imperial rule. The council chamber itself was a marvel of combined human and dragon engineering. The architecture flowed like living art, with organic curves that pleased dragon sensibilities and practical functionality that satisfied human needs. Representatives sat in groups arranged by species, but the seating was mixed, encouraging conversation between different worlds rather than isolation within familiar groups. Elder Vorthak, now bearing the title of Senior Advisor rather than Supreme Emperor, looked remarkably different from the dying ruler Tyler had first encountered. The old dragon's scales had regained their golden luster, and his eyes sparkled with an energy that came from having a purpose beyond mere survival. "I never imagined I would live to see dragons asking for advice instead of giving orders," he told Tyler with what might have been amusement. Princess Zara had become the first elected Chancellor of the Alliance, chosen not because of her royal blood but because of her ability to understand and mediate between different species. Her first major initiative was approving Tyler's proposal for the Academy of Synthesis, a revolutionary school where young beings from across the galaxy would learn together. The Academy occupied an entire moon orbiting between Earth and the Draconian homeworld, symbolically positioned to represent the bridge between both civilizations. Tyler served as its first director of innovation, though he insisted that the real teaching happened when students from different worlds shared their unique perspectives. Human creativity mixed with draconian wisdom, Centaurian logic combined with Aquarian intuition, and dozens of other combinations that created solutions none of them could have reached alone. Alex had become one of the Academy's most popular instructors, teaching what he called practical problem solving to students who were often amazed by human ingenuity. "The secret isn't being smarter than everyone else," Alex would tell his mixed classes of young humans and dragons. "The secret is being willing to try ideas that seem crazy until they work." Back on Earth, the changes were just as dramatic. Cities that had been struggling with poverty and decay were now thriving centers of interstellar trade and cultural exchange. Detroit, where Tyler's story had begun, had become the headquarters for Earth's space development program. The old group home where Tyler and Alex had lived was now a museum, but more importantly, it had inspired a network of similar facilities across the galaxy where young beings without families could find homes and opportunities. Captain Rex, the gruff dragon warrior who had once questioned Tyler's worthiness, now commanded the first truly integrated fleet in galactic history. His flagship, the New Dawn had a crew that included humans, dragons, and representatives from 12 other worlds. "Fighting alongside humans taught me something I had forgotten," Rex often said. "Courage isn't about being the strongest. It's about standing up for what's right, even when you're afraid." The Academy's first major expedition was led by Lisa Chen, a former fighter pilot who had distinguished herself during the Zephyrian War. Her mission was to explore previously unknown regions of the galaxy, not to conquer new worlds but to make contact with civilizations that might want to join the growing alliance. The expedition included both human scientists and dragon scholars, working together to unlock mysteries that neither species could solve alone. Tyler often walked through the Academy grounds in the evening, watching human children and young dragons playing games that combined elements from both cultures. The sight never failed to amaze him. 3 years ago, humans had believed they were alone in the universe. Now, kids from Earth were best friends with beings who could breathe fire and fly through space. But perhaps the most significant change was in Tyler himself. The scared, lonely teenager who had fixed broken electronics in a group home had become someone who helped fix relationships between entire civilizations. He had learned that his real gift wasn't his ability to interface with alien technology, but his capacity to see potential where others saw only problems. Dr. Kara, now the Academy's chief science officer, often reminded Tyler of how far they had all come. "When we first found you, We thought we were saving our dying empire, she said during one of their regular conversations. We didn't realize you were going to save us from something much worse, the curse of believing we were superior to everyone else. On quiet nights, Tyler would stand on the Academy's observation deck and look out at the stars. Each point of light represented a world full of beings with their own hopes, dreams, and potential contributions to the galaxy. The old Draconian Empire had seen those worlds as territories to be conquered. The new alliance saw them as friends waiting to be discovered. Sometimes Alex would join him on these midnight contemplations. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Alex asked during one such evening. "When it was just the two of us figuring out how to survive." Tyler smiled, thinking about the question seriously. "I miss how simple things seemed back then," he admitted. "But I wouldn't trade what we have now for anything. We're not just surviving anymore. We're building something that will outlast all of us." The greatest inheritance, Tyler had learned, wasn't power or technology or ancient bloodlines. It was the wisdom to know that true strength came from lifting others up, not holding them down. As he watched a group of young dragons and humans working together on a science project that might revolutionize space travel, Tyler realized that the best legacy anyone could leave behind was a world where cooperation mattered more than conquest, and where differences were celebrated rather than feared. The boy who had once felt like he didn't belong anywhere had helped create a place where everyone belonged.